My oh my, holy overtime in week 2 of the NFL.
Woo-wee! Barn burners all over the place.
Welcome into
Unreal.
Sunday's Scaries live reaction show with Bucks McGee.
Welcome, everybody. Week 2. Excitement with my man, Nutmeg 2 Palmetto.
So, obviously, quick to start off the show. Monday is going to be a very sweet victory Monday for both of us. Bucks
Oh,
win, Colts
yes.
win.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. It gets sweeter and sweeter every week.
So, why don't you go first? Because there's a bit of an undertone to my win, and it's a bit of a sour undertone to my win. So, why don't you go first on Tampa? Because they both of us expected our teams to win, and
Yeah.
the Bears kind of really have not been off to a good start. So, was this what you expected? Did they stumble a little bit because the Bears kind of got back in it a little bit towards the end?
I'll give the Bears credit. Their defense hung tough. I felt that this game shouldn't have been as close as it was. I
Yeah,
believe for the amount of yards we put up, which was over 400, we left points on. We left points on the field, no doubt. The Bears, they had injuries throughout the game, but they hung tough. I give them credit. But at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield, man, watching that game, slipping out of sacks, just flipping them, pulling Mahomes like throws. Now, if Mahomes had done some of this stuff, it'd be 3 weeks of wow greatness. But it's Baker, so he's not going to get that nod, and I'm fine with that. At the end of the day, the defense pulled it off. Shaq Barrett with the interception to basically ice the game. The Bucks are playing solid ball. People wrote this team's obituary in the preseason, said they're going to be a mess, but 2-0, you can't complain. The Eagles are coming up, next week, and you kind of have to take that for what it is.
yeah.
But for right now, 2-0, they're playing solid ball. Mike Evans had a great game. If this is indeed his swan song this year, he's leaving it all out there.
Yeah, he is. It's funny because a couple of fantasy leagues I'm in, there's a group chats we have, and they always say like Mike Evans is quarterback proof because before Brady he was still putting up numbers. He maybe wasn't putting up the numbers he put up with Brady, but he was still putting up numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's obviously proving that Baker's not any kind of a detriment to his production so
And
far.
to give
Anyway,
Baker credit, he's not trying to do too much. This isn't the Cleveland Baker. He's making his where he tried to win the game on his own. He's doing what he does, but he's doing it within the confines of the offense. So they're looking great. I can't complain. 2-0, like I said, I'm gonna take it.
1/3 of the way to that 6 wins.
See, everyone. Oh yeah, maybe 6 wins for number one pick. Yeah, I don't think that's looking like that right now, but it's a long season. I need to get to the quarter poll right here, first quarter of the season, and then we'll go from there. Three and
Not
one is tangible.
not to switch sports, but I believe the expression in basketball is "let Steph cook." So do we say "let Baker bake"?
Let Baker bake, man. Give him the apron and let him do what he does, man, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch, man. There's gasps. It's excitement because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's a blast. I'm loving it.
Um, Over to my team. At least I know that the Colts won't go winless this year. However,
Hmm.
like the very famous Thanos quote goes, "What did it cost? Everything." we we lose Anthony. This win this win did come with a mighty hefty price tag as Anthony Richardson, who got off to an incredible start, just scoring everything under the sun.
Hmm.
Takes a messed up little knock to the back of the head on his second touchdown, and winds up being evaluated for a concussion and doesn't return to the game. And now he's up in the air. So now I'm like, all this this little slimmer of hope that this season could actually be digestible and enjoyable for me is now poof out the window.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Uncle Rico, aka Mr. Minshew himself, came in and he played well.
He did
You,
actually.
He played well. I don't think he's serviceable. He's not bad. He's not horrible. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna start. He's not gonna be your number one pick to start a franchise, but he can handle 3 to 4 games for you.
Hmm.
Now the key to all this is to make sure that the Colts don't handle this like Miami handled Tua.
Yeah.
That is the absolute key. Everyone thinks the Colts may have stretched in picking him fourth to begin with, but the guy's got unbelievable talent. We've talked about this, so I would have done it. So I think right now you're cautious with him. If that means you keep him out one more game than you think you would have, then you do it. Because, like you said,
Right.
you were looking. We've talked about this, and you're looking for just competitive games, win or lose.
Yeah.
So if he's got to sit out 3 games instead of 2, then you do that because you know that he's going to be around the next 10, 15 years. He's your franchise guy. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but you guys played solid overall and you won. You're gonna have to, you know, hang on the defense for a little bit to maybe help you out for a couple games. But hey, Uncle Rico can sling the rock a little. Let it
Yeah.
happen.
And the defense did hold serve. And on top of that, Zach Moss returned today a lot earlier than I was expecting him to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's we don't have to rely on Deion Jackson to be a workhorse, which he's clearly not, or Jake Funk or Evan Hull to do more than they really should be expected to do. Zach Moss, I think, was Buffalo probably is going to miss him from his time there, and I think he will be a good pseudo workhorse for us. Maybe not, obviously
I
not Taylor, but you know.
Right, but I also think and you bring up Taylor. I was going to, but you beat me to it. Thank you. This is the audition I think for the life after Taylor. Let's be
Right.
honest.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think they're looking to move him. Like let's just cut bait and just build. I think the picks would be immeasurable for you guys because AR needs that number one receiver. He needs that prime receiver, and I just think it's probably time to cut Taylor and move on. So I think you've got these young guys, see what they can do, kind of morph this offense, and it could be something special.
Yeah.
You take the hit now, and long term, could be something special. So I say, hey, play with the youngins, let them see what they can do.
Right. Yeah, and I don't mind it in the least bit if you sit AR for a game, maybe even two to make sure he's right, and just do the best you can in these 2 games. Let the defense
You
do what
have to
they
sit
can.
them. You have
Ride
to sit them.
Moss. Yeah.
You have to because if you pull a Tua, it could set them back. You
Oh
have
yeah.
you have to sit them. Take the loss, play the kids, let them play hard, let them get that experience, and then when AR is ready to come back, then you continue on because at least those guys now know this is what the offense is. We can just bring AR back in and just go on from there.
Yeah. Well, that's our trouble. Hopefully, we can avoid a couple
Mm-hmm.
other teams that might be in a little bit of trouble after this week.
A little bit.
A little bit. The first one, of course, we spoke in the pregame. This was supposed to be the crown jewel of the weekend: Jets Cowboys. Uh, under the lights
Sorry,
of the
I
stars.
apologize. I apologize. Apologize, Jets fans. I was there with you. I was there with you
Um,
until
I mean, I can't really say Zach Wilson played bad. I mean, I was expecting Dallas to really abuse him a little bit more than they did, but at the same time, there's absolutely no denying that they were just completely overmatched, and that defense, as great as it is, just going to get worked way too much if they're on the field with any opponent that's better than average.
oh, there's no doubt about it. I'll give Wilson all the credit in the world. He hung in there and did his best. But I think it honestly shows that he shouldn't have been picked as high as he was. He just was not ready. He was a project, let's be honest. He just wasn't there. They fell in love with, the BYU fun and the razzle dazzle and stuff that he had. He wasn't he's not ready. He needed to sit behind somebody at the very beginning. And I think if he had done that, I don't know if he would have won today, but it would have been a better showing. But, he went out there, busted his tail. I can't fault him for that. Yeah, and with the Jets defense, this is where they're going to falter because they're going to be out there way too much. And I don't care how great you are, and guys on that team were thinking that they're on the level of the 82 Bears, the Ravens, Ray Lewis Ravens, guys talking, puffing the chest out.
Uh,
When you're on the field twice as long as your offense, you're going to get tired. I'm sorry to tell
yeah,
you, it's
I
just
don't
not going to happen.
I don't care who you are.
No, exactly. It just won't work. So I think what's going to happen is they're really going to look. They have to look into another quarterback if they want to salvage the season at all and hope that Rodgers can come back for the playoffs. They need somebody who can play. They really do. And right now, out there in the market, I don't know if there is anybody. I
I,
really don't.
the, the funny part is, like, I heard that today that he may be ready to go by the playoffs come around if they can get there.
Mhm.
But one, obviously, you have to get there, and two, let's say they go out and get somebody like Kirk Cousins, because at this point,
Mhm.
Minnesota looks like a flailing tuna fish. Um, let's say they go on and get Kirk Cousins,
Mhm.
and Rodgers is ready come playoff, and Rodgers is ready come playoff time. Is Kirk Cousins really going to want to ride the bench in favor of Rodgers? Like I see that as a potential. I mean, obviously this is all hypothetical, but let's just assume
Right.
the hypothetical be a reality, and they acquire someone like Cousins who's a starter in their own right. I see that being a situation that could bubble over into controversy.
The Kurt would have to sit there and say, "Okay, I'll go, and yep, I'll be the fill-in," and he would have to kind of use this to kind of break the narrative that he can't win in the big games. He would have to save the Jets, win in prime time, basically carry the ship till Rodgers comes back. Now, that's if Rodgers comes back and if Rodgers can even play. Like, let's say he comes back and he just doesn't have it, because
Mm-hmm.
let's think about it. He's technically going to miss the season. Timing's going to be off. He's not going to get it back in like a week. Let's be real. I know he's Aaron Rodgers, and everyone wants to, he's the greatest physically gifted quarterback of all time. Blah 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 blah. And I know there's four-time MVP or whatever you want to say, but he's still going to have to get his timing back. Like, there's just that just happens. It's fact. So maybe Kurt will sit there and say, "All right, you know what? I'll ride this out till the big man comes back. I've shown my worth. You're not going to keep me." So then he's basically open to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Let's say the Niners fall apart, and then they're like, maybe Brock isn't ready yet. All right, let's bring him in. He's gonna open some eyes if that's what happens, and he can perform on those big stages. So I don't know. I don't think they would do it, but it would be quite entertaining to see it. So they're gonna look and find someone serviceable. Hey, maybe Minshew lights it up for 3 or 4 games. They're like, "Hey, Uncle Rico, come on in."
Go
Like,
Rico, the next Mike White.
that's it, man. Now see, the Jets should never gotten rid of him. Told you, Mike White, man. He's sitting there in Miami going, "Hey, look at me."
Uh,
You
real quick,
know,
real quick before we move on to the next topic, Dallas is 2-0 now. But do you take any kind of grain of salt with this 2-0, considering they whooped up on a Giants team that didn't bother to show up, and they kicked around a Jets team that with a quarterback who's a little bit not yet ready for prime time?
I want to give them an incomplete.
Yeah.
Like I said, that defense is great. I'm not gonna lie, defense is great. Dak looked solid today. They beat the Jets because they should have beat the Jets. Like, let's be realistic. There's no reason the Jets should have been in the game. They really weren't. They handled business. I need to see them play the upper the upper tier of the league before I can say, all right, this is for real. Because we've seen teams play teams that just weren't good, and they coast through the season, and then when it's time to show up, they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So their defense, I love the defense, but I'm just not sold on them yet. So I have to still grade them an incomplete. 2-0 is 2-0. You take it, you roll with it, but they got to start playing some teams before I can say, all right, here they are.
Yeah, enough of this Nick Saban Alabama early schedule.
Yeah, like North Bridgeport Community College. You know, AKA Housatonic Community College. No disrespect to who's you, no doubt. If
Um,
you know, you know.
if you know, you know. The other team that could be in a heap of trouble right now is the Bengals. They fall to 0-2, which is also 0-2 within their own division. And today, okay, Burrow eventually got going. He eventually shook off that nonsense from last week. But at the start of this game, still looked quite a bit of nonsense from last week.
They're in trouble. Literally, probably about like 20 minutes ago, ESPN reported that he's tweaked the calf. So, did they rush him? Did he say, "Oh, I'm ready," and they believed him because they paid him the money? Like this is an invest. This is your investment here, Cincinnati. You should have been like, I need to know 100% that that calf is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're 0-2. Now the Ravens don't look that great, but they're 2-0. You know, this is some rough waters here for them. They need to figure out, is he ready? If he's not ready for next week, you don't play him. You just suck it up. You don't play him because if that calf gets any worse, he's going to be out 6, 8, 9 weeks. That's and your season's going to be over.
Yeah.
It's not good for Cincinnati right now. They need to sit him down Monday when he comes to the facility and say, let's look at this thing. We need to know what we've got.
Yeah. Are you right? Are you really right?
Yeah. I don't need you to be a hero. Okay. You've got 15 years or whatever you signed to be a hero. I don't need you to be a hero now and your leg fall off and then you're good for nothing for me.
Yeah.
Like it's the truth. Like, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
get these guys, you signed the big money, you want to prove that, you're worth the money, but it's a long-term investment. And if that calf injuries are a mess now, it seems like they're more prevalent now than ever. And if it's not right, and he's had some histories with this, it's not good.
Similarly to Dallas being 2-0, the Ravens are also 2-0, but they whooped up on a Houston team that's very much in an early rebuilding phase, and then they get this Bengals team where Burrow might not be right, and they're getting off to a slow start. So, is there any kind of grain of salt you take with Baltimore's 2-0?
Let's see. I need to see a more complete game.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they need a complete game for me to say, okay, they're legit. Like I said, and I said it not even 2 minutes ago. 2-0 is 2-0. But I think they need a little more legit. Legit win, something that says, wow. You would say Cincinnati was, but you've got a hobbling, Burrow, and it goes to show you that Burrow makes that team run 100%. You can't just plug somebody in that offense and it's going to make it work. I give them credit, but they've got to figure out what their run game is going to be. I still think they need to make sure that whatever running backs they're going to have are going to stay healthy because, Lamar preached and, I'm going to throw for 5,000 yards and this and that. And right now, I don't think he's on pace for that.
Yeah,
Not at
no.
all. So, is this going to be a dink and dunk and a Lamar runs all over the place again offense? So, well, why did you even pick up OBJ? Like, why did you pick these guys up, to spruce up the offense if you're not going to throw it? But
Speaking of OBJ, shocker of all shockers, he hurt his ankle today.
yeah, there
So,
you go. So now are you back? Now let's say that ankle's going to start bothering him and he's going to be out, in and out of the lineup for a couple of weeks. You're back to what you were. You aren't any better than you were last year. Like Hop, JK is out. So you hope Gus the Bus is going to hold up for you. So what are you going to be? Are you going to run Lamar all over the place and God forbid, he gets hit wrong and then I don't even know who you got. Todd Hundley still?
yeah, maybe.
He got you to the playoffs, but uh, they have to figure out what this offense is going to be because I don't think they still know yet. It's still a
Yeah,
work in progress.
right now their saving grace is the fact that Cincinnati's having these troubles.
They've lucked out and gotten teams that are wounded ducks are just not that good. Houston being just not good, and Cincinnati a wounded duck right now. So
Yeah. So that's a lot of the big kind headlines we can pull out from the early game Sunday, but there were also a lot of games that were exciting on Sunday in week 2, and a couple of them went to overtime. The Tennessee Titans, they had let me check my notes. They had the go ahead touchdown with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left. Chargers came back, tied with a field goal, and then Chargers being the Chargers, gave up the game-winning field goal in overtime. Now the Chargers fall to 0-2, and Tennessee is sitting right in the mix of this in an AFC South that could be anyone's game if Jacksonville doesn't get off the schneid for theirs. I mean, I think everyone other than Houston's 1-1 right now, right?
This is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on in with Chargers, the Charger Nation. This is horrible. The first game I can forgive you because it was a high scoring game. You were going against Miami, who everyone a lot of people have put into the elite status, the AFC. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that. The Titans you should have beat. I'm sorry, the Titans
Yeah.
you should have beat. They're a one trick pony. It's Derrick Henry, and you hope Ryan Tannehill doesn't screw up. And I feel bad because a couple of years ago, people were like, "Wow, Ryan Tannehill's really stepping up. He's really starting to ascend."
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason for that. Even with Eckler out, you have enough offense on that team, and that defense with the names you have on there should be solid enough, to handle this. So, and we talked about this. If the Chargers, 1-4, 2-5, does this mean a coaching change? And for the money they've spent, yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll deep dive into that more because we're gonna tie that into another change that could happen that we spoke about in the preseason. But with this game with the Chargers, we almost kind of gave them a pass in the pregame show as far as needing a rebound. Like, oh yeah, they'll beat the Titans, and sure enough, it wound up being a lot harder than it is. So maybe they needed a rebound a lot more than we thought they needed a rebound.
I don't know what it is. Like on paper, this team is talented. I just don't know where the disconnect is, why they just can't perform when they need to. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. Because let's say you throw Sean Payton on that coaching staff, right? Sean Payton's running that show. That team's 2-0, I believe.
Oh yeah, Herbert's having like 5,500-yard seasons probably.
So the question is it the team itself? Yeah, or is it the coach? Like I don't like it boggles the mind. But like I said, in a couple of weeks, if they're not at least 500 ball, then you have to ask the question.
Mm-hmm. The next big overtime thriller was Seattle Seahawks, and this one. They went up to Detroit for the Lions' home opener. Lions, of course, coming off the big opening kickoff win against the Chiefs. And this game was a little bit tantalizing because this was the game that opened the season last year for both teams, and they scored nearly 100 points combined. So we were kind of expecting a high-scoring affair. Lions had a good little control early on, but the Seahawks outscored them 14-10 in the second half. And then Tyler Lockett caught his second touchdown day in overtime for the game winner, and now the Lions fall to 1-1. Seahawks get back to 1-1. So was this just kind of like a fun game, or is there kind of something to pick apart about? Okay, maybe the Lions aren't maybe the hype train's we got on the hype train a little bit too fast.
No, I think it was a fun game. The Lions were in this. I think people would have thought this would have been the letdown game. After you knock off the champs, maybe they're pumping their chest a little too much, and then Seattle comes in and smacks them around, and they lose like 31. They lose like 31-7 or something like that. But no, it was a fun game. They were in it, and they just, Seattle made a couple more plays than the Lions did. So no, I don't think this does anything to the Lions. I think this actually shows that they're competitive, and anyone who plays them needs to be ready to play 4 quarters with them. Because they are well coached, and they play pretty well in all 3 aspects of the game.
Yeah, and then the third one, this one did not go to overtime. However, this was one of the games in the pregame show that we said, okay, the Giants really need a rebound, and they came out of the gates looking like they didn't know how much they needed a rebound because they got out. As we know, they got outscored 40-0 last week. This week, They start themselves off at a 20-0 hole, 60-0 to start the season, and
That's
miraculously,
impressive.
and miraculously, they wound up coming back and winning this game. I had definitely written this one off, and then I was paying attention to the Jets game, and they started switching games around. And also, I look at the Giants score, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what happened? And since it's the 3:27 mark of the third quarter, they scored 24 unanswered points, with the exclamation point being 2 touchdowns from Saquon Barkley. So we, we could have started this off like, okay, are the Giants really in trouble? But now it looks like, okay, maybe the Giants are in trouble. Maybe there's a little bit of Giants left from last year's Smoke and Mirrors team. Will the real New York Football Giants please stand up?
The Giants faced a team quarterbacked by Josh Dobbs. And no disrespect to him at all, but they literally picked him up after they basically got rid of Colt McCoy for no reason. I don't know why they didn't keep him. We don't know when we're going to see Kyler. So they bring him in, and to all his credit, Dobbs played a heck of a game, no doubt. I just think the Giants have more talent. The Giants have more talent. And it shouldn't have gotten to this point where they literally had to claw their way all the way back like this. I don't know. Barkley's hurt. At the end of the game, he gets his ankle tweaked, so they're watching that now. But Danny Dimes turned it on the second half. I'm still concerned. Like, you hope as a Giants fan that, okay, fine, the stink of the Cowboys game is finally over. We got it off, and now here we are. Because if you start out slow week 3, then you start to question, okay, well, what's up with this team?
Yeah.
They've got some decent pieces. They're a young team. They've got pieces. They're still developing. I don't think they're gonna show up at the NFC Championship game. I don't think they're there yet. I still think they have some pieces they need to build, but this game should have went a lot easier for them than it did.
Yeah, and Coach Brian Dable was, of course, the star last year with Coach of the Year honors and getting this team into the playoffs. But if you wind up having 3 or more weeks in a row, let's say next week goes somewhat similar. If you wind up having 3 or more games in a row where you get to a slow start, that's completely on leadership.
Yeah. No, exactly. And then you haven't improved where you were last year, because then they start to look like they were last year. Or you could almost say they were better last year, because they didn't shoot themselves in the foot last year.
Yeah.
They came out and they played hard, and they scraped and pulled out wins. Here they're falling behind by 2-3 scores, and then all of a sudden they've got to play from behind. I don't think they're built for that. They're not. They are not built. If they get behind like that against Philly, forget about it. At this point, just turn off the TV and just go on with your day. So they really need to figure out what's going on. Wide receiver wise, even defensively, they struggled. So it's going to be interesting. I think next week's game will tell the tale of what this team may be.
Yeah. And the last one was kind of got exciting towards the end, and that is, of course, the Denver Broncos hosting Washington. And Denver got off to another slow start in here, and it wound up getting exciting towards the end, and they wound up with this miracle Hail Mary that fell a 2-point conversion away from overtime. But Russell Wilson just does not look good. And we've kicked this around the preseason. We kicked this around the pregame show. We kicked around in week 1. What does Russ have anything left? Because right now it doesn't. Through games, it doesn't look like it. He's looking very efficient, but he has his arm to me just looks shot.
The term game manager gets thrown around a lot, and I've grown to not like that term, because I think all quarterbacks are game managers. They manage your offense. Russ to me feels like he just doesn't have it anymore. It's just like that throw at the end of the game to get them to almost overtime, like barely got there.
And he put
Exactly.
every fiber of his being into that.
It hit at what about the 4 yard line and bounced its way into the end zone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's built for what Peyton wants to do there. I
Yeah.
really don't. I think what they're going to do is they're going to let him let Russ cook or whatever microwave at this point because he's almost just throwing stuff at like it's basically like he's throwing a hot pocket in the microwave and hitting start. There's no cooking here. There is no apron, no nothing. He got home from school and he's throwing hot pockets in the microwave. That's what he's doing here because he's got talent at the wide receivers, he's got talent at running back, and it just seems like it just doesn't work. Like they seem like there's a disconnect, nothing's jiving. I think they're going to let Russ burn himself out of Denver, and Peyton's fine with that. And he's like, hey, man, if we play that bad and we get the number one pick, I'm going to get my guy. And then next thing you know, Denver's going to be back on top of the heap again. So, no, Russ is bad. Just
Let
bad.
let Russ nuke. Let Ben DiNucci cook.
Exactly. Ben DiNucci should have been it for real. Open up the quarterback competition because that's what you're going to be doing by week 7. You're going to be like 1-6, 2-4. Put DiNucci in there. Let's see some XFL magic because Russ is just a hot mess. I don't trust him at all. He just looks like he's trying and he just doesn't have it. It's not there. Seattle Russ is gone. Everyone needs to just get rid of that. And here you go. You have adequate Russ from Denver. Don't use
Adequate
the
Russ.
stove. His
Oh,
parents are saying, don't use the stove when you get home. Use the microwave because that's what this is.
yeah. Just to double down, like you saw on the throw. I mean, he looked like he had to be gassed after that throw. Like everything in his body was going forward just to get that to the goal line.
You'd like see him in the pocket during that last stretch, and he's like looking and looking and looking and looking. It's like throw the dang thing, do something. And like I think Russ of 3-4 years ago was running around, making stuff happen. It just does not look good.
Yeah. Quick detour in our conversation. Let's tie a couple things together. So you touched on it a little bit before with Brandon Staley, the head coach out in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and then Russell Wilson here with Denver
Mm-hmm.
Broncos. How much do each of these teams need to make a change? Chargers at head coach, Denver at quarterback, and how at this point, after seeing 2 games this year, how likely is each team to make a change?
All right. Let's see. Chargers. I think they will sit there at the halfway point of the season and say, hey, if we're not contending, then he needs to go. Staley needs to go. And Kellen Moore will take his rightful place as the head coach of the Chargers. And all of a sudden you'll see the light switch go off and they will be a potent offense. I think that's what will happen. Denver's just going to struggle. Like I said, I think they just want to let Russ burn himself out, look bad, and say, hey, we're going to cut you. This is what you did. I don't think Peyton wants him. I really don't. I think Peyton looks at him and goes, well, this is what I got. I came here. I told these guys I was probably going to, if he wasn't going to perform, and this is where they're at. Because you've got too much talent on that team to not contend. And if Russ doesn't have it, then you got to cut what you got because you don't want these other guys saying, you know what, if this is going to be my guy, I'm out. So I think Denver's almost, they want to win, but I think there's a longer term plan in place, come the quarterback position. Chargers are built for now.
Yeah.
They've got the pieces now. If they can't perform and get to at least the AFC Championship game, there's a problem. They're not built to say, hey, divisional winner, woo-woo, and that's it. They're not hanging up banners, divisional participant, yay me.
That hurt.
No one does that.
That hurt.
No one does that.
You have to do that.
I didn't think about it until after. I apologize. I didn't really think about it. I didn't think about it until I went like this, and then I saw it in my head, and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna hurt."
Cut me deep.
I apologize.
Real deep.
I apologize, man. I apologize, but that's the thing. Like the Chargers are now. If they've got it, they need to do it now. Denver, I think they're content with just letting Russ burn himself out and moving
They'll
on.
wait it out to the season then.
Yeah, because I think they know what they have, and I don't think it might be a wild card team at best if everything falls perfectly, maybe.
Yeah. Let's talk some quick hitters before we get into this Miami New England game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the first one I got is we. I, maybe we need to change our mentality on the Rams a little bit. I know they're definitely still not the Rams of old, but they've played 2 games now where these young kids are putting up a lot of production and they're scoring points despite the fact that they're in cap hell and Stafford's arm's about to fall off and they're putting up numbers. I mean, maybe they're nothing more than just a fantasy sleeper, but I mean, I I don't want to necessarily focus too much on the Niners. The Niners are 2-0. Everybody expects the Niners to be 2-0, but the
The
Rams,
Niners handle business.
yeah. The Rams, I don't know. Maybe there's a little something with the Rams that I mean, we're not expecting them to go to the Super Bowl again, but maybe there's something there that is not necessarily all garbage.
It's almost like the Rams have these young pieces, like you said. They've got this young talent. They've got the old wily vet in Stafford, and maybe Stafford is the coach that's getting them ready to take the next step. It's almost like they're a AAA ball club, and he's prepping these guys to take that step to the big league, to the big team. No, these young guys are exciting. I totally agree with you. I think they're sitting there, they're busting their tail, they're putting up numbers. But yeah, Stafford isn't. Let's 2 years from now, I doubt Stafford's going to be there. So I think these guys are getting the reps, and at some point when the new guy comes in, whoever that quarterback will be, he'll have these weapons. These guys are great. Hopefully, they're not a 1 year flash in the pan because of what's going on. Now McVay he's an innovative coach. I'll give him
Yeah.
that. He's going to put them in places to be successful. We know that Cam Akers was inactive today. Rumor is that I heard is they're looking to shop him.
Yeah.
So, the young guy Williams, I think his last name is
Kieran,
Kalen
yeah,
Williams.
Kieran
Kieran
Williams.
Williams. He's going to be the guy now. So, and that's great. Like I like watching these young guys. I like seeing the young talent. They're going to be competitive, and that's all you can ask for right now. I think that's it. That defense is decent. You still got the big guy in the middle, 99. Donald's going to do his thing. So you just play hard and see what happens. You never know. They could catch hot at the end of the season and slip into the wild card and be a team that no one wants to touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, moving on from Cam Akers would be very long overdue because I think he usually just spent.
Yeah, I just don't think it worked, and you just kept them, and then you brought in Sonia Michelle, and you were hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. Man was around for 5 years, got 2 Super Bowls, and left. Go figure that out. If that,
Yeah.
if that was the secret, I would have went pro. Shoot, 2 rings and I'm out.
Yeah.
Buy my couple car dealerships and just live the life.
That's right.
Do some card shows, sign some stuff. Hey man, there you go.
We've been living that life as in HBO Ballers.
That's it.
The next one, a little bit of ad lib because I forgot to factor this into our format. But the Chiefs went down to Jacksonville. We thought Jacksonville might catch them off guard, but the Chiefs took care of business and did not allow a touchdown in this game. They got Kelsey back. Kelsey found the end zone. Probably should have found it a second time. If it was 100%, I don't. He's probably not 100%, even though he's probably fairly close if he's even playing. But 100% Kelsey probably does catch that second pass in the end zone. So Kelsey's back there. Holmes is throwing around. He's still I think he's still kind of trying to get some kind of chemistry going with these other, also ran receivers. But I mean, there's got to be some. But if you're Kansas City and the offense is what you have to worry about catching on, I think you're okay for now, and the defense can hold an upper tier opponent without a touchdown.
Well, all right. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay, so let's say that was Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Do you think that defense would have held them like that? I don't know. Like, mind you, we put the I'm guilty of it. I put the Jags close to that tier because they've got talent, they're exciting, they're still young, but the Chiefs are the vets. They pulled it out. But in watching that game, the Chiefs didn't look all that great to me offensively.
Oh
And
no,
yeah,
no, they didn't. A
you
lot of
know,
issues to figure out on offense still. Yeah.
and your defense did its job, and I give that defense that credit. But I don't know if this is a team where the defense can carry them for a full season.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is what your offense is now, where you got to hope and pray somebody's going to catch a 5 yard flat or a little curl, and you can't trust them, sooner or later Mahomes is going to roll out, and everyone. It's pretty much the same thing every week. Towards the end of the game, Mahomes is rolling out, getting the first downs and stuff. A team is going to have a plan where when he rolls out, he's going to meet somebody, and it's not going to be pretty. Like I'm not a fan of what the Chiefs have right now. They're getting by, and hey, that's great, but it's a long season. You got to figure out what this offense is, and if that means you got to change it and run a lot more, then you need to run a lot more and not worry about the high flying. He's going to throw for 350 yards every game, razzle dazzle. You have to figure this thing out to make sure he stays healthy and that you guys can put some points up consistently.
Yeah. The only caveat I'll give them is the fact that it's only 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
If it's still like this, week 5, week 6, week 8, week 10, then I'll be like, all right, I'm not putting any chips on this team into the playoffs.
No, but see, everyone is quick to, give them all the credit, Reed and Mahomes and all that. If they're as good as what everyone was saying, oh, they could throw anybody in those spots and they're not going to miss a beat, then it shouldn't be like this now. Like
Yeah.
if it's getting to week 6 and week 7, then okay, then what's the problem? There's a bigger problem there. Because if Kelsey gets hurt again, that offense is doing nothing. So you beat the Jags. Maybe the Jags needed this to kind of sit back and say, "Hey, we're not as good as we
Right to
are."
ship. Yeah.
And sometimes you need to get smacked a little bit to kind of learn where you're at and to fix those things because there were some catches and some throws that just weren't there for the Jags. But if they meet later on in the year, could be a different story.
Yeah. Real quick, we don't have to go too much into this one because Buffalo, despite the Raiders getting a touchdown right off the bat, Buffalo really took them to the woodshed to finish this off. So, is this what you needed to see out of the Bills in order to think like, okay, maybe they still have some of the Buffalo mojo?
It was a solid game. It was a solid game. It's one of those things where, like I said, this is a team that you should have beat. I don't think anyone had the Raiders beating Buffalo, unless you're, the Black Hole Raider Nation. Then yeah, you're thinking you're going to go in there and you're going to handle Josh. But no, they handled their own, and they handled the business. But no, I need to see this against like Kansas City. I need to see this against a team that's solid.
Yeah.
But maybe this is what you needed. You got it right. Still don't love but Josh does what Josh does, and it worked out this week. I don't know.
The last one I want to touch on for a quick hitter is the Packers. I figured today, after seeing what Atlanta looked like against Carolina, they barely got out of that game. Did not look very pretty at all. I'm thinking Packers are going to go in there, seeing what they did to Chicago in the second half, and just roll the Falcons. And they looked okay. They looked pretty good early on. They were getting it going. Falcons got a couple big breaks. Ritter had a couple picks that the Packers just practically handed it to the Packers, and they just dropped them. But the Packers also didn't keep their foot on the gas. They didn't step down on the throat. They didn't put the Falcons away. Let them hang around. Bijan Robinson had an amazing game from start to finish, and they wound up just chipping around. And where's my note on that one? Atlanta 13-0 in the fourth quarter. So we were all high on the Packers after week 1 for Jordan Love putting on this dazzling show. Maybe we got to pump the brakes a little bit on the post Aaron Rodgers era.
I also think we held the Bears in a higher regard than maybe they are.
that may be as well.
Let's be honest. I thought Fields had taken that next step, and I guess I was mistaken after today. But yeah, I think you're right. But I also think this is you got to understand this is Love's real first season. So this is his offense, his team. So he's going to learn these things. He's going to learn that every time we get the ball, we got to score. It doesn't matter who's on the other side of that ball. It doesn't matter what their record is because you never know, and that's what the NFL is. Any given Sunday, you don't know. And like you said, the defense had some picks that they should have caught. And I think if they catch a couple of those, then this game's out of reach. Atlanta doesn't win this game. So all the credit to Atlanta, they were scrappy. They were scrappy, but now they're gonna have to start questioning, is Ritter the guy? Now Atlanta looks at their situation and says, okay, well, you're just gonna run the ball and Ritter's gonna be the quote unquote game manager. But Green Bay, and like I said, I hate that term, but I think Green Bay's all right. Like these are the growing pains that Love is going to have to go through. I think because he had such a good game in Chicago, people shouldn't have sat there and said, okay, well, the Packers aren't going to miss a beat. Here we go again. We went from Favre to Rodgers to Love. We're not going to miss a beat. Well, yeah, you are because he's still figuring out what to do, how to be a pro. Like he's learning this stuff. Because Aaron didn't sit there and teach him that. Aaron said, "Good luck, man. You just pick up whatever you can from me because I'm not going to teach you." Let's be real here.
Yeah.
So no, I think they just had a stumbling block. It's going to be a growth for them, but Atlanta stuck it through. But Atlanta shouldn't be too happy about it.
That's right. Yeah, just be happy on cloud nine, and we'll see where you are in a few weeks.
Be happy today, and then
Yeah.
tomorrow you watch the film and say, "Oh man, we got lucky. We need to figure this out."
Just getting underway. They just started the second quarter. Dolphins are out to a bit of a surprising, minuscule 3-0 lead. What do you expect out of Tua and crew up in New England tonight?
I think the way that it's been, anyone who plays New England the last couple of years, especially when you have a high-powered offense, it's going to be slow. You're going to see the wrinkles that New England gives to you defensively. Now, New England is a great defensive team. They've got great players on that defense. They'll hold you down for a bit, but I also think as the game goes on, they'll figure it out and put up some points because no one trusts Mac Jones. You
No.
know, if New England can put up 14 points at halftime, I'd be highly impressed.
Yeah.
I don't know what Mac Jones is going to give them. The run game, I think, is absolutely critical for New England's success. They're going to have to run the ball, and Mac is just going to have to play within that framework of that Bill O'Brien offense. So the key to it are the wide receivers. If New England can keep those guys somewhat contained, Hill and Waddle, then they have a decent shot. They could surprise somebody, but if they start letting them run loose and catching everything and anything, it's going to be a long night come the second half.
Yeah, and we said it in the pregame show or in our wrap up last week that the Eagles were trying to give Mac Jones chances to win the game. He just couldn't do it. So I mean, now you're asking him to go toe to toe with Tua, assuming Tua can get some wheels under him, whether it's Tyreek, whether it's Waddle, whatever the case may be. That you're expecting Mac Jones to go toe to toe with that?
And you got Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, I don't see that happening. Hey, I've been wrong before, but your offense isn't built for that. You're not meant to put up 30 plus points. You're meant to probably put up 25 at best and have your defense clamp. So we'll see what happens, but 3-0, not bad. They're holding their own.
That's right. Well, don't forget if you want the full post game week 2 wrap up, check our audio podcast form Monday morning. And Bucks McGee, I guess we got a game to watch.
Yeah, gonna watch us some Tua and Mac Jones.
Enjoy Sunday night, everyone. Enjoy Sunday night, everyone. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Yes, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the game.